Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Srini here, and this is my channel. You can just go ahead and search in YouTube, and you can subscribe to it and hit the bell to get notifications. So here I'll be creating a lot of free videos on Java, Selenium, Python, API automation, and I have a separate playlist created on interview questions for Selenium and Java. So you can watch those free videos and be benefited. So today we are going to see the part 2 in our interview question series for a 2 to 3 years experienced person in Selenium wanting to clear the interview on what all questions they can expect. So in my previous video, I have shown you all what are the generic first questions you will be asked when you go for the interview. And in this particular part, you're going to see the first round of your interview, which will be happening on core Java. So some of the questions could be asked over the telephonic interview round, or some of them could be asked directly when you go face-to-face interview. So this questions, and there are many more actually when you look at the internet, but these are the some of the good important questions which I have jotted down in this particular session, and I'll be explaining you all. So let's get on to the practical part and look at the document. So let's look at the core Java interview questions which you can expect in an interview. So the first question is, what is the difference between method overloading and method overriding, and how it can be achieved? Explain with an example. So in this particular session, let me just make it clear. I'll not be able to uh, show each and everything practically because it's just the questions which I'm discussing with you all. So if you wish to learn any concept, you can look at my Java tutorials playlist in my channel and you'll be able to understand the concept. So the first question is, what is the difference between method overloading and method overriding? How it can be achieved? So method overloading means that you try to overload the method. So it could be with different number of parameters or with different type of parameters or the sequence of parameters within a method. So the name of the method will be same. The return type also will be same, but the signature of the method is also going to be same, but the parameters list in the method is going to differ. It could be number, it could be sequence, it could be data type. So that is how we achieve the method overloading in Java. And the reason we have method overloading is because to perform the same operation by different types or different ways, right? So that is how method overloading is achieved. Method overriding will come into picture when you are having a superclass and a subclass, that is a parent class and a derived class. And if your derived class has got one of the methods from your parent class, let's say we wish to change the definition, whatever is the content of the method, then that can be achieved through method overriding. So when that definition is changed, but the return type, the parameter list, the method name is going to be exactly same, then method overriding is achieved, and this will help the subclass to achieve a particular specific functionality which could have been generic in case of superclass method, but that could be made more specific to the subclass in the method overriding. So you might have a superclass and you might have a subclass, let's say class super, and you might have a class sub, right? So you could have a method like void m1, and you can, let's say, m1 method, right? Now in case of subclass, if I say extends super, means it becomes a subclass becomes a subclass of the superclass. Now I can have method m1 defined again, right? And if I say in subclass, so I can have some other statements as well below it. I'm just changing the definition of this inherited method m1. Here the method return type, method name is exactly same. So if you notice this particular symbol, it says overrides this particular package Java interview 1.super.m1. So this is how method overriding is done. So what is inheritance in Java is the next question. What are its advantages, and mention the different types of inheritance. So this is a very simple question for any candidate who is just going to appear for a 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 years interview. This will be like one of the basic questions which they will be asking, and they will be expecting the candidate to know for sure. So inheritance in Java is a facility of one particular class extending or inheriting the properties of another class. Properties, when I say, it's not just the variables, the instance variable as well as the instance method could be just inherited from the superclass by the subclass. What are its advantages? The advantages would be for code reusability, making it more making it more specific to whatever we require, and reducing the number of lines of the code. So those are going to be the different advantages of inheritance in Java. And it will make your code more structured rather than lot of code repetition and redundancy. It will make a code more structured and more reusable. What are the different types of inheritance? Well, you have different types in Java. You have multi-level, you have single inheritance, you have multiple inheritance, not directly, but through inheritance. You can use that through interfaces. Actually, we can use multiple inheritance. We have hierarchical inheritance, that is like, let's say, if I were to show you in a diagram, it's like in a kind of a hierarchy, right? So if you have like A here, you might have one more here, you might have one more here, you might have one more here, right? So let's just give a name for each and every class, right? So this is how you're going to have it. So let's try to depict a relationship between these. So this is a kind of a hierarchy relationship. So one class is inheriting the other class, that class is inheriting some other class, that class is inheriting some other class. So this is how we have hierarchical inheritance, right? So you have hierarchical, then you have hybrid inheritance. Hybrid means a combination of multi-level and hierarchical inheritance. So these are the different types of inheritance in Java. So I'll be creating a separate video on these different types of inheritance in Java. I have already created a video on just inheritance in Java overview in my Java playlist, so you can look at that. Can method parameters be passed as a reference in Java? Explain. So simply, if you ask me, the answer for this is that no, we will be passing the method parameters as a value. Answer is it will be passed as a value in Java, the method parameters. But we know that in Java, everything is an object, and object is by default as a reference. So whatever changes we make to our values or whatever we pass, that will be ultimately changing the value within the object. So it will be passed as a value, but since in Java everything is an object, and object is actually like a default as a reference, so it will be like its value will be updated whenever we call the calling method, its value will be updated. The next question is, explain about the usage of keywords final, abstract and super in Java and how it is used to effect. So final could be used for a method, it could be used for a variable, okay, it could be for a method, it could be for a variable, or it could be for a class. So we need to understand what is final in each and every context. So final in case of method would mean that this particular method cannot be overridden. So we just saw the case of method overriding in Java now in this case, right? If I say final here, this will throw an error because it is final, so we cannot override the final method from superclass. So that is the concept of final. The final method cannot be overridden. If you have final variable, means it will become like a constant, so such a constant value cannot be changed throughout the execution of a program, it will remain always the same value, right? Next is final class. So final class means I cannot subclass it. So if I say final class, so this doesn't allow, so let's remove this. So this doesn't allow, it will give you an error, it cannot subclass the final. So that is how we get the error, right? So that is the meaning of final in case of a class. If you have abstract, abstract is used for achieving abstraction oops concept in case of Java, right? And abstract means that it's just a declaration, not a definition, right? Not a definition. So it's just like a declaration given. So when you are having a interface, right? When you create an interface, let's say when you create an interface int1, and if you say void m1, it's just a declaration here. But in interface by default, it is public final abstract. This is how is the default modifiers for a method in case of an interface. So you cannot make it change for any of the three, right? So it's by default final. So what do we say by final here, right? So we've already discussed about final, method, variable, and class. So for the abstract, it's like an abstract method. Abstract method means it will just have a declaration, no definition, right? And similarly for the abstract class, so when you say a class as an abstract class, that means it has at least one abstract method, and we can have other methods like void m1. So when I say here like abstract void m2, so when I have a method without any definition, I have to make it, I have to proceed with the abstract keyword. If I don't say, it's going to give me some error. See, it gives you some error that it has to have a definition or it needs to be called as an abstract. The moment you say abstract for a method within a class, you cannot have it as a normal class. It will throw you an error. You have to make it as an abstract class, like this. Then only it will allow you to save an abstract method within a class. So that is the meaning of an abstract in case of a class. Super keyword is used with respect to a super class. So whenever we need to invoke a super class constructor, you will be using it. So let's say we have it as a class. Let's do this, right? Let's have a super class constructor. This is a super class constructor, right? Now I'm going to have a subclass here, and this particular subclass is extending this super class, right? So when I say sub, I can call it superclass constructor through this particular method. So super is a keyword which is used in many contexts. It can be used for invoking the superclass constructor, or if you would wish to access any superclass variables, let's say int a equal to 20, we can directly access it. So let's say it is protected, int a equal to 20, and I want to access my superclass value. I can just say super dot a, and I can just simply print it. So this is how even super keyword could be used to access the value of some variable from your superclass, right? What are collections in Java? Do you know what are generics and what is the difference between this and normal collections? So list down the different types of collections in Java. So collections in Java are a particular framework, you could say, used for storing, retrieving the values, for doing manipulations with respect to collection of data. And there are different types of collections in Java. So I'll just tell you what are the different types of collections in Java. So you already might have seen my previous video on the overview, but in case if you haven't, then these are the different types. We have array list. These are the different collection classes I'm talking about. We have hash map, we have stack, we have vector, we have hash table, we have set. So we have such different types of examples of different classes of collections in Java. So we are going to see in this particular example what is the meaning of a normal collection and what is generics, right? So let's just in this particular public static void main, let's just see the example of collections, right? So I can have array list, maybe array list of string, let's say, right? So array list of string I can have, and I can just create as a method. I can just create a variable, and I can just define it using the new operator. You just use the new operator to give some space for your collection. Import the java.util array list. So when you use this particular way, when you have a symbol like this enclosed and you have the type mentioned, it could be string, it could be any other wrapper class like integer, it could be any other thing, right? So when you do that, or it could be some specific class object as well within it. When you do this way, this particular, so this will keep it the same on the left and the right side. So when you have this kind of, it is called as generics. It's a collection of type generic of string type, because you mentioned the data type here. If you do not mention the data type, it will become a non-generic collection type. So this is an example of a non-generic, because you haven't mentioned the type of collection here, and you can copy this to another one, and if you say this way, it will become a generic collection type. So this is how the interviewer would be able to identify if you are having an idea about this or not, if you know what is the difference between a generic collection and a non-generic collection. Which are the collections you'd be using if you want to store and retrieve the data faster? So HashMap is the one which is very fast to retrieve and store the data as well, because it works on random access. And here one more thing important is that here it doesn't use it's like a non-synchronized, so it doesn't have any thread waiting for a resource. So it will be very fast, and it will be able to store the data in terms of key value pair. So if you wish to retrieve the data faster, it will be faster as compared to hash table or other collection type. What is an exception? What happens when an exception occurs? How will you handle it, and what are the different ways to do it? So this, I've already created a video on exception handling, so you can go over that and you'll be able to understand it. So coming to the next question, how will you differentiate finally and finalize in Java? See, finally is used in the exception handling as what are the different statement block you would want to execute for sure without fail. That comes after try catch, or you can just have try finally, right? Finalize is used in case of garbage collection to just end the usage of objects. So that is how finalize is used. What are poll and peek methods used in collections, and what are their purpose? See, poll is just to basically take the data from a collection. It will basically remove the top of stack and retrieve its value. You can find out what is its value when you use the poll method, and it will also remove the data from the collection, so that object is taken out from the top of your stack. So if you haven't gone over my videos, you can go over my collection videos. I'll create a video on collection on Java tutorials playlist. So go over that. So poll is just used to remove the element from the top of the stack, and it will also return its value. Whereas peek is just for retrieving, right? It is just for retrieving the value from your collection stack, but it will not remove. That is the difference between poll and peek. What is boxing and auto boxing and unboxing in Java? See, this is a concept which is associated with the concept of wrapper class in Java. So I'm going to explain what is a wrapper class and explain auto boxing, unboxing, and how it is useful in Selenium in this particular tutorial session. So I'll take an example to explain that. So consider that you are having a integer variable a equal to 10, and you're having a wrapper class like this integer a1 equal to new integer. Now, why do we need a wrapper class, right? So a wrapper class is required because in collections, we store each and every element like an object. So as you might be seeing, string is a class, right? And we can have an object of the string class, and that can be stored in a collection. If you see these primitive types like integer, double, and boolean, char, float, etc., these are all primitive types. So if I wish to store any of these different types into a collection, right, how will I be able to do that? I need to have a flexibility of storing such a data into a collection. So we have a wrapper class here. So that is for all the data types, we have the individual wrapper class. So this is how we declare and instantiate a wrapper class, and it is initialized with the value of primitive variable a. So this is how you declare and instantiate at the same time a wrapper class. So this is called as auto boxing. Auto boxing means converting a primitive type into a wrapper class. That is the meaning of auto boxing, and we can print its value. And unboxing means getting the integer value or the primitive value from your wrapper class. So if I say a1.int value, I am able to extract the primitive value from my wrapper class. So this is how we get the value of the primitive data type. So this is called as unboxing feature. So these are the concepts of auto boxing, unboxing in Java, and it is useful in Selenium because in Selenium we often have to use collections. So wherever we use collections, we would want to retrieve the exact integer value or exact boolean of double value from that particular wrapper class. So in that case, we will be using collection. What are static variables and static methods? How are they useful? See, static variables and static methods, they are used in a context of memory save, right? We have to save memory. So in terms of saving memory, we'll be using static keyword. What it will help us here is that instead of creating a memory block for each and every object, we would be having some variables or some methods which will be common to the entire class, not just with respect to an object. So in that case, what happens? It's just given one location, and the entire class has got to point to that particular location, right? If any value changes, it will be same for all the objects in Java. It will not be differing. So we are going to save memory here. So whenever we would want to save memory, at the same time we feel that this particular variable is going to be like common for all my objects, we would have to use static here. And the concept here is that static methods can access only static variables. They cannot access non-static. However, if you have a non-static method, they can access static variables as well. Can access non-static variables as well. So this is how we can use it. It will be useful in case of memory utilization. Whenever you want to utilize the memory to its effectively, then we will be using the concept of static. And a common example will be like example, let's say college. So all the students would belong to the same college, right? So why do we have to have a separate college variable? Means make it as a non-static. We could instead make it as a static, and we could have methods to assign or get the value from a static variable. In case you make it as private, so we can use getAsSetter for the same. Right. Now, write a program to reverse a string in Java without using string inbuilt methods. So this is a very popular interview question across any experience range you go. And I have created a simple program, and I'll show you how to do that. So you have a string, right? So you have a string value like I like Java. So if I would want to reverse the value, I can actually use it. Basically, I can use a string buffer. I can use a string buffer, and I can just say new string buffer, right? And I can pass the value of str when I instantiate a string buffer, right? If I say sb dot, see, I'm able to reverse it directly. There is an inbuilt method. If they ask you how do you reverse a string, you can use this way. If they ask you without using string or string buffer inbuilt methods, then we have to go for another approach where we'll create a method. So what I've done is I've created a method here. I'm passing the string variable here. I am just trying to find out what is the total length of the string, and I'm creating a character array, right? I'm going now from the length minus 1. See, str.length is going to give you the total length. If the length is, let's say, 10 characters, so I want to start from 9, because in the index of the string starts from 0 till length minus 1. So it will go from 0 to 9, right? So I would want to start from 9th index and all the way down till greater than or equal to 0. So this is the variable I'm starting with, I equal to that, starting from 9, and I'm going till I is greater than or equal to 0. I'm coming till this index 0 and doing I minus minus. And for j is basically an index I'm using to store in my character array, right? And it will be storing the value. str.char is a method. Char is a method that whatever index you mention, it is going to give you the value of that particular index, the character at that particular index. So I'm storing that into that particular ch of j. So j is going to start from 0. It is going to go till less than or equal to str.length minus 1, because I want to store till 9th index entire data. And I'm just incrementing j here. You can also increment j here as well. Just do it comma separated, like j++. You can do either of the ways. It's up to you how you want to use it. And finally, once you've stored the data into ch of j, once this for loop is over, you can just print out the reverse string. Now you can start from 0th index till length, ch.length, because you've already stored the data into whatever order or sequence you want to. So you can start now from the 0th index. So this is how you can have a reverse string achieved without using the inbuilt method. The next question is, what is the difference between hash map and hash table? See, hash map and hash table are two different collections in Java. Hash map is non-synchronized, hash table is synchronized. So hash map is more faster because there is no locking mechanism here. So when a thread is using a resource, there is a concept of locking mechanism. So if it is synchronized, means the other resources will have to wait till that particular resources lock is released. But in case of hash map, it is non-synchronized, so it need not wait. Threads can access it simultaneously, so it's more faster as compared to hash table. It is synchronized. right? So there are other differences also. You can just go over the internet. So these are the common or the important difference which I wanted to mention. And also in case of hash map, it allows one null key and multiple null value. But in case of hash table, no null values or null keys are allowed. Now, why is that string is immutable in Java? So this is a very important question, and we have to understand it, why it is so. The reason for the same. See, string. The reason string is immutable is because string belongs to a string class. See, string values are belonging to a string class, and those string class have got objects which are used in different types of important places. Example, in socket programming, in case of network programming, you would be able to see that the username, password, the connection variables, all of them are actually of string type. So in case, let's say this is mutable. Mutable means its value can be changed. If in case it would have been mutable, then imagine that any hacker would be able to change the value of that particular string, and then they can just change the encryption or decryption, whatever, if it's a string type, and if it have been mutable, and it could have just compromised the security. So that Java developers didn't want, the owners didn't want to happen. So that is the reason they have strictly made string as immutable in Java. So if you were changing the value of a string object, if you're just changing, like if you're concatenating something, let's say str.concat, if you say hello, right, and if you were to just print str now, right, so if I just run this particular program, so here, so where is str? Here it is I like Java. So let me just mention something. Str is, so here if you see, I have concatenated str with hello. So even if you run this program, it is just going to say I like Java. It doesn't append hello to the end of I like Java. The reason is because I like Java hello is created, but it is created in the constant pool. It's like a separate string is created on the constant pool, but your original value will be unchanged. It is still going to be str. So that is the reason that from a security perspective, string is made as immutable in Java. Could you mention the difference between creating string as new and literal? Yeah, so new basically will be like allocating some memory, right? And if you compare this with string, like the string literal, it is just like creating a new value. So it is just created on the constant pool, but this is going to allocate the memory in heap memory as well as create a new value in constant pool. That is the difference between the two. Mention the difference between abstract class and an interface. See, interface can have, it will always have abstract methods for sure. We have already seen in our example here when I had shown to you all here. So interface will always have abstract methods. By default, it is public, final, abstract. But an abstract class, if I make this class as an abstract class, right, it can have abstract methods and it can have non-abstract methods also. If you see here, it is an abstract method. It's a collection of abstract as well as non-abstract methods as well. It can also have constructor. It can have non-abstract variable. It can have abstract variables. So it can have other things also, but the interface will always have abstract methods and final variables only. Can null value be assigned to this reference variable? No, it is not possible, because this refers to the current object and the current instance of the class. It cannot be changed. Null value cannot be changed to this. So this will give you a compilation error if you were to do it, because it's an object. You cannot change the value of it. It is just referring to the current object. So what all restrictions are applied to Java static methods? So this is a very important question. See, Java static methods, it can access only static variables. It cannot access non-static variables or methods, right? And the reason is because we would want that particular concept of memory consumption. That is why we don't make it as a non-static. So with static, what happens? Entire class is having one copy, and all the objects are going to have that particular value at any point of time. So that is why it can access only static variables by a static method. Is it possible for a constructor to be made as static? Explain. No, it cannot be made as static. The reason is because when we create the object of a class, that is the time when constructor gets invoked, right? Be it parameterized or a non-parameterized constructor. So Static, as we said, it is for the entire copy, is for the entire class. It's not for a specific object. So that is why it is not possible for a constructor to be made as static. Could we have static variables and static methods in an abstract class? So this is a very critical question. So just try to understand, abstract class can have anything at all. It's not like an interface where it has to have only abstract methods or anything apart from that is not allowed. Abstract class can have non-static, static variables, static method. It can have abstract methods. It can have non-abstract methods. So yes, it is possible to have all of these combinations in an abstract class. Is it possible to change the scope of the overridden method in the subclass? So what is the meaning of this particular question? Scope means visibility. You have to understand or decode what they are trying to say. Visibility or access modifier of the, so let's say we are having this example, superclass, and let's comment out for now. Okay. So we are having the concept, yeah, method overriding example here. Now M1 method here, let's say it is public. But if I try to do overriding here, it is giving error. It is saying cannot reduce the visibility of the inherited method from the superclass. So it is not possible to change the scope of the overridden method. Means you can change it, but you are not supposed to. We cannot reduce visibility. We can increase the visibility. We can increase or keep same, but we can't reduce the visibility. So you can keep it public again if you want to keep the same type. This is fine. Can you do it protected? No, this will mean like reducing the visibility because you have made it as public. So you made it as public. If you make it as protected, let's say, and if you make this as protected, it's fine. But if you make it as public also, it's good because you're increasing the visibility. But if you make it as private, or see, it's going to give you error, cannot reduce visibility. Or if you keep it default, it is also going to give you error because you have reduced the visibility. So we have to keep it same, or we have to increase the visibility. We cannot reduce the visibility of the inherited method, that is the overridden method. So these were some of the important questions which I felt could be asked for a 2 to 3 years experienced professional. There are a lot of so many other questions which are there in Java. So I would not say it will come only from this. There are so many, you have to go prepared. You have to be very good in Java. But these are some of the important ones which I felt could be asked and you should prepare for the same. So in the next session, we are going to see the interview questions, what you can expect for a 2 to 3 years interviewers would be able to ask for a professional of 2 to 3 years of Selenium experience. So this will be very key. So we are going to see this in our next lecture. So stay tuned and do subscribe to my channel if you haven't done yet. Thank you so much.